Today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where Kuwait forms an empire. If you're wondering why Kuwait, I have a wheel, and this wheel has every country in the world in it. And today it landed on Kuwait. So Kuwait is going to be forming an empire and trying to get stronger. So without further ado, let's get into this scenario. Okay, so the first thing that Kuwait is gonna do is, for Kuwait, they're gonna ruin their perfectly good country. It's one of the only good ones over here in this area. Controversial, I know, but Kuwait, I've met a lot of Kuwaiti people. I think they're like one of the best people in the Middle East. Again, gonna be a bit controversial, but I love Kuwait. So Kuwait is pretty not good friends with Iraq. They're they kind of don't like each other. Yeah, Iraq is trying to restabilize after the US invaded and after Saddam Hussein and stuff, and so Iraq is kind of still a bit destabilized pretty much, and Kuwait is a very good and stable country in the area. Of course, the Middle East has only one true democracy, Israel, but Kuwait is still a really good country overall, and the people there are, most of the time, they're happy. Not as happy as in a true democracy, but anyways, Kuwait is gonna talk with Benjamin Netanyahu and Mr. Erdogan. Israel wouldn't be that important though, because the most important one here is Turkey, who are going to play a big role in this situation here, because Kuwait is gonna secretly fund some Kurdistan support group that's gonna want its independence from Iraq. Here is the representation of Iraqi Kurdistan. If you don't know what Kurdistan is, it's ethnic group that's present in this area over here, more like this. Yeah, in Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran, and they're actually the largest stateless ethnic group, and they've been wanting independence for a while, but they're not getting it, unfortunately. And Kuwait is gonna fund secretly, without anybody knowing, pro-Kurdish group that's gonna take over, seize some big cities, and they're gonna strive for independence of a Kurdish state. And on paper, Kuwait won't support a Kurdish state. They're gonna put the blame on Iraq that the Kurdish state is gonna emerge because of Iraq's weakness, and they're gonna get Turkey to invade it, and they're gonna pay Turkey as well as the Kurdish state, and they're also gonna get Iran on a separate team with Syria, who they fund, but Iran is a lot weakened now. Still, they're here with Syria, and they're also gonna invade Iraq. So Iraq is just gonna get completely beat up because all these countries are invading them. And Saudi Arabia is gonna join their own team, and they need to stabilize the region and get as much land as possible in stable hands, as they say. And so immediately what happens is the group starts in the 3 major cities, and then it starts expanding, and they all connect and they join up, join forces, and eventually they get stronger. And then when they touch the border with Turkey, that's when everything starts. And then they touch with Syria, and Kuwait get them to go inside of Syria and start doing the same over there, and they even capture one city, and they even managed to do something in Turkey. And so that's when everything started, and it all blew up. And so first Kuwait doesn't do anything, but the Syrians see what's happening, and they don't want their country to explode again like it did under the Assad regime, right after it. And so they're gonna wanna push back the invasion and try to get their city back, which they do. Congrats, Syria. By the way, I'm Syrian. But Syria's also gonna want to push Iraq as far as possible from their country. Remember, Assad is gone. It's not the same Syria that existed a year ago. So this Syria, like, it's under different people and they have different ambitions. And they managed to push Iraq back like far. And they're like, okay, Iraq, this is gonna be our new border. If you respect it, we're not gonna cross deeper into you. Iraq's like, okay, first of all, frick you, but fine, if you're gonna respect this boundary and you're not gonna invade me more. And so Syria stays like this, and now their only goal is to push back the Kurdish people. But what happens here is the Kurdish people start coming out within Syria, and Kuwait never stops funding them, and they capture another city, and they capture another city, and then they capture this other city back, and they even managed to capture a Turkish city. Dun dun dun. So Turkey is like, no way, we're not gonna let this happen. They are connecting with each other, like people that don't even know each other are connecting just because they're Kurdish, and they're gonna do like bad stuff here, and we don't want a Kurdish state, we want our land. And they make big encirclements and a lot of troops die, and Syria is kind of messed up again. That's when Iran see what's going on, and they used to support Assad's Syria, but they don't want to lose their friendship with Syria, so they're gonna help Syria, and they're gonna like do a good job, because they're gonna go into places in Iraq where there's literally nobody, like here. Okay, and they don't really want to fight the Iraqis, they just want more land, because Iran, they're gonna go for a city, but they're not gonna touch it yet. They're not gonna invade it yet, they're touching it, and they siege it, and they capture it. And that's basically what happens. Iran start pushing, and they don't want the Kurds to touch them, and they're telling the Kurds, don't touch us, we won't touch you. Kuwait's telling them the opposite, if you don't touch Iran, we're gonna stop funding you. And so, because they want them to make as much chaos as possible, and they're gonna invade Iran, and they're gonna go inside of Iranian land, and they're gonna get the Kurdish people within Iran to like start getting out of the big cities and like expanding, and they managed to connect here and here. And so Iran's like, no way, no way, no way. There's literally no way. Poor Iran. Trump threw bombs on their nuclear facilities. They don't have any good weapons they can work with anymore. And that's when Kuwait is gonna seize the opportunity and go to war with the Iraqis, and they're gonna do well. They're gonna start invading into the big cities already and capturing them, and they're gonna like push like really far deep into Iraqi territory, capturing one more city over here, and they've already more than duplicated their territory, and they're not even started yet. They capture another city over here, and Iraq is like actually dying for Iraq, but Kuwait already got 4 major cities, and they're really strong, and their military still hasn't left Kuwait City, for example. Like a lot of military is still over here. Let's look at the military map, please. Here we've got the full military map of Kuwait, mostly centered along the big cities over here in Kuwait proper, as well as the Iraqi cities that they have captured, and along their border with Iraq, and their border with Saudi Arabia and Iran and their water. But as you can see here, there's a huge concentration of troops in this area, and like literally little to no troops over here in the middle. So here's what everything is looking like. And so what I'm trying to say is Kuwait is like super strong, and Saudi Arabia sees what's going on. They're like, no, we gotta join this war to keep stability in the Middle East, otherwise outside powers are gonna invade. And so they are invading into Iraq, and they're pushing their whole military on this because they want like stability, and they're gonna make it stable one way or another. And so they're going for the big cities because they want to be like ethical, and they capture Baghdad, and so the capital of Iraq, and most others, and every single other city except for this one. And that's all they can do in like 6 months, which is a lot they can do. And they got all of this in like 6 months, which is like really good. I mean, they didn't double their territory. And they're kind of big already, so it's kind of hard for them to double their territory. Like with the war with Russia and Ukraine, it's gonna be hard for either of both countries to double their territory. I mean, Russia can't double their territory in Ukraine, but you know what I mean. They got a lot of land in Iraq, and now it's like what Turkey does. They see that the Kurdish people cross into their territory. They're not happy with what Kurdistan is doing, the Kurdish people is doing to their territory, and they're gonna brutally oppress every Kurdish person, and they're telling them that their identity is fake and that they don't get rights. So Erdogan is very mad, and what he's gonna do is brutally oppress everyone, every Kurdish person, like in Turkey, like in this huge stretch of land where there's Kurdish people who maybe didn't even want a state. He's gonna oppress them because that's what he does. I mean, no hate to Erdogan, but I think that's what he does. And so all of the Kurdish people in this area are gonna be brutally oppressed, and they're not gonna get like rights anymore. The Mountain Turks, okay? And like, I think this is like the most west Kurdish people live in. This is the most north, this is the most east over here. Anyways, they're all gonna be oppressed, and they're not gonna get rights, and they're gonna get mad, and they're gonna start like their own uprisings over here. So like there's a big one over here in the middle between these 3 cities, because they didn't want to invade into cities, so they're gonna push out of the cities, and this is where they all connected, and they don't want to capture the cities. And Turkey is gonna see this as like a rebel movement, and firstly they see them here entering their cities, and they're gonna get it all back. They're not gonna accept this, and they get the cities back. I mean, the only one city, and this one too, this push over here. And Kuwait is gonna tell the Kurds to go inside of Turkey, but they actually can't, because the whole Turkish military, like most of it, is over here. And Kuwait, that has an alliance with Turkey, that's why they both have the same color, they're gonna get Turkey to invade into this Kurdish place. And they already are in Syria though. Like, Turkey is already in Syria, so they have like a lot of troops over here already. But yeah, they actually get it all over here, and they start a full-scale invasion of Iraq. Poor Iraq. Give them a break. Everyone's starting full-scale invasions of Iraq now. And they capture 1 city already. I just want to preserve the color of the city. There you go. And they got 1 city already in Iraq, and they're going for the next one soon. A lot of troops are in there, but they stay, like, they don't go super fast like Kuwait did, because they want to stay there to stop any potential uprisings. And like, literally, Syria, bye-bye. You're kind of dead. They connect with their other push over here, and they surround all of these Kurds, and they commit a brutal genocide. And Iran's turn now. They see that the Kurds invaded into Iran. Iran is kind of crippled now, though, because of Israel and the US, but they were a horrible regime to begin with. Like, they had their best times before they had this bad revolution. But Iran still has a little amount of people that can stop the Kurds. I mean, I don't think they can stop the Kurds. No one can stop the Kurds, but they are gonna try their best, and they're gonna do a solid job at splitting them up and at pushing back the Kurds from Iraq. And they did a pretty good job over here, and what they're gonna do a better job at, unfortunately, because we hate the current regime, is at invading Iraq and capturing another city. And they're gonna go for the places in Iraq where there's no Kurds, and they're gonna try to meet up with Syria. And Syria, though, doesn't want to touch them. They don't want to go beyond this line because of Assad, because Assad's gone. But the Kurds see this as invasion, and they're gonna fight the Iranians in Iraq, and they're gonna push them back from this area too. And now it's their turn to go for Iraq. and they're doing like a really good job at fighting Iraq too, and because they get free land in Iraq. Now let's look at our buddy Kuwait, who this video is about. They are like really good at this, and literally like their full military goes. They even touch the Euphrates River and the Tigris. Yeah, and like their military goes where there's Iraq. They are not invading Iran or Saudi Arabia. They don't want to touch them. They like just go as far as they can, and now like they're really far. They're like 3 Kuwaits far from Kuwait, which is beyond shocking for little Kuwait. The world is shocked. Saudi Arabia now is gonna do the final blow to Iraq, and yeah, they're gonna get it over with and just invade the rest. And I mean, Iraq ends up surrendering to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia now, they're gonna meet for peace with everybody. So the parties sitting in the negotiating table are gonna be Iraq, Iran and Syria together, Turkey and Kuwait together, Saudi Arabia, and finally the liberation forces for Kyrgyzstan. And this peace treaty is going to be simple. Kuwait, they're going to have like a couple of treaties and exchange of territories, but Kuwait is going to claim all of this for themselves, and all the other countries agree. Iraq really don't have that choice, and everybody accepts it and they get it, even though this looks hideous, which we're gonna address this later, but not right now. Iran wants a small stretch of land in this area because they did invade, and they want like to guarantee the safety of their 2 cities over here on the border. So yeah, Kuwait is gonna accept to hand that over to Iran, even though we hate the regime, okay? And they're also gonna get all of this land over here since they invaded that too. Now, we can address Saudi Arabia's claim. Everybody accepted this. Iraq is no longer a thing. The border gets erased. Saudi Arabia gets all of this for themselves, and everyone agrees because they're like kind of gonna take care of the land. Now, Syria agreed with Iraq that this would be their border, so they get it, but they still want to do it with Kurdistan, who don't agree with it because like it's literally like their land. So they get this, but now like what happens is this thing, the separation without black. I mean, they do come to a deal with Kurdistan that Kurdistan wouldn't invade them in exchange for this. So Kurdistan can't invade Syria for 5 years, which is going to be good for Syria, it's a new regime. But Turkey is now addressing their claim. They want this and this because like they invaded a lot more, of course, but they just want like an easy. And I mean, they don't care about what Kurdistan says because Kurdish people in Turkey don't have rights anymore. And with Syria, they're like, Syria, you gotta give this to us. It's like protection and stuff, and Syria is forced to accept because their regime has just collapsed and they're kind of weak and they have no word compared to Turkey. And so Syria kind of expanded in the south but lost a lot of land in the north. I mean, not too much. They got more over here than they lost over here, so they still emerge victorious. But yeah, and Kurdistan now, they just want to stay. And all these parties just killed Iraq, and now there's a big bundle of state over here. And so state is what Kurdistan just got. They were forced to come out of Iran. They were forced to come out of Turkey and Syria because Turkey literally invaded. But now this is what it looks like, and they're happy with what they have. Oh my gosh, y'all, I gave Kurdistan a state in my video. Please clap. Anyways, this is what our Middle East looks like now. After this whole bundle of war, yeah, Israel didn't do anything. But here we have a Kuwait that looks like, I don't know, what, like, looks like a gnome holding a banana with a nose. Like, this looks like a nose. Yeah, this looks like a banana. It looks like a gnome, a garden gnome holding a banana. Yeah, so I'm sorry, Kuwait, you look like a garden gnome holding a banana. So what they're gonna do is a land exchange with Saudi Arabia. So as you can see in dark green, these were the borders of Iraq. And so they're gonna make a deal with Saudi Arabia, and they're gonna say, look, you give us this, we give you this. Saudi Arabia's like, what? They're like, look. You're gonna be purple, okay? You're gonna get this, and I'm gonna get this. And so Saudi Arabia thinks about it, but like, this is some valuable land in the Tigris and Euphrates area, and they're close to big cities, and where even is Baghdad? It's here. Anyways, Saudi Arabia end up accepting the deal, and so this is what Kuwait ends up looking like, and Saudi Arabia is now like happy because they have the big everything. Let me just place Baghdad. Here it is. Right on the border between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Wow, they have a border now. That's gonna be so nice. Well, nice it definitely is, because that's exactly what's gonna happen right after this, because Kuwait loves being like the annoying little pal, and so they're gonna get Iran and Saudi Arabia to fight. So for now, you're gonna be white Kuwait. What's happening is you got Iran and you got Saudi Arabia, the two biggest powers in the Middle East, in this huge area, okay? Iran and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia just got bigger than Iran. Wow. Here's Baghdad. It belongs to Saudi Arabia. Iran's kind of mad about it now that they think about it, and because it's like a really good city to have. And so they just out of nowhere send troops over and capture it. And Saudi Arabia is like, what the hell did you just freaking do? And so Kuwait's like, you know, we're pals with the Saudis. So yeah, Kuwait's in the blue team. Kuwait joins the war and declares war on Iran. And they get the Kurds to do the same. Russia doesn't want like a total dismantle of Iran. And like everyone got surprised that they didn't react to how Trump literally bombed Iran. I mean, they bombed the nuclear facilities, but anyways, you got Russia supporting their big ally, Iran, and Armenia is gonna support Iran. And as you may know, Armenia and Azerbaijan are in war and they're fighting, and Iran like doesn't really like Azerbaijan, I guess. And Azerbaijan told Turkey, yeah, we're getting threatened by this country, and so Turkey now is in the blue team. And so you got this whole bunch of countries over here picking sides. You could have India and Pakistan and Afghanistan and the US joining this, but they're gonna stay neutral. I mean, not really neutral, of course, but you know. And then like the fighting just starts. Armenia and Azerbaijan officially joined this war, with Armenia declaring war on everyone who declared war on Iran, and Azerbaijan declaring war on Iran, and Russia supplying Armenia like a lot, and oof, it's gonna be bloody. Alright, first thing, somehow Azerbaijan has some pro-Iran clashes within themselves only along the Russian border, and Armenia start invading this area over here. The Nakhchivan exclave is literally finished, and Iran starts invading strong in the north, and they capture one city in Azerbaijan. Now, Azerbaijan are crying to their daddy Erdogan in Turkey, and he's happy about some free land too. And what they do is they declare war on Iran together. I mean, Azerbaijan already had. Maybe Erdogan was mad that Azerbaijan got them into a war with Iran, but like they see everyone else is in a war with Iran, so they're gonna do it to Iran. The first thing that Turkey is gonna do is they're gonna push back the Iranians from the Nakhchivan exclave of Azerbaijan, and while doing so, they're also gonna invade into Armenia and like capture some key cities as well as Yerevan. Like they're doing really good over here in Armenia, and they get Armenia to capitulate. And so Russia's like mad at him, but there's nothing Russia can do now because we don't want to get into a war with NATO. And so Turkey is invading deep into Iranian land now. So Russia's like really mad that's going on, and they're trying to like settle for peace already. Azerbaijan, with the help of Turkey, they managed to push the Iranians and whoever was over here out of their country, and they capture some major cities alongside Turkey in Iran, and like they stop over here because they don't want to exaggerate. Meanwhile, the Kurds, they get people from like the main cities in Iran to like unite against the oppressors and finally get a Kurdish state, and they to finally bring them to the Kurdish state, because Iran doesn't like the Kurdish state. And so they get a lot of people to fight Iran, and they push really deep into Iran, surprisingly. And Iran is like super mad, but now they're kind of crippled. There's nothing they could really do. So they just want to settle with Saudi Arabia and just give us Baghdad. And Saudi Arabia is like, no way. And so Saudi Arabia pushed back from Baghdad, and they invade into these two cities that were Iraqi at first, and they like actually zoom through Iran, and they're really good at this. They capture an Iranian city, and they're doing what they wanted to do for a while, invade Iran. And so they're really good at this. They capture a major city over here, a little city over there, and they go for this major city and they capture it. And now they're going for Tehran, the capital of Iran, and they're close. And what does Kuwait do? They're gonna do what they have done to Iraq and what they do best: blitz. They capture two cities within a week, and they go for this city over here and they capture it, and then they go for this one over here and they capture it too, and they push far from their territory over into Iranian territory, and they capture a lot of coast because they didn't have a coast. They had a tiny coast before, and so they capture a lot of coast, even this other city over here across the Gulf, and they push deeper into Iran, and Iran is like super mad. But like now with everything that's happened, there's not much they can do about this, and so this is what the war ends up looking like. Before troops from Saudi Arabia cross into Tehran, Iran meets for peace in Riyadh, which is, why is it not on this map but it's on this one? Like literally it's the exact same map here. Oh wow, now you can see it all better. Well, in Riyadh, they meet in Riyadh to discuss a peace treaty between Iran, Armenia, with Turkey, Azerbaijan, Kurdistan, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. And now let's take a look at this peace treaty. Okay, let's start with the simplest part of this peace treaty. Turkey, let's make it purple, give it its land, and then leave. Turkey, they did something controversial. They took land from the tiny country of Armenia, because Armenia kind of lost the war. And they're also going to be taking this from Iran. Yeah, I mean, Armenia, I think you guys, they deserve some more appreciation, because like literally the Armenians are like such a historic people. Like we can't even begin to start talking about their history. So yeah, Turkey just got like a bit giga chatted. Now alongside their pal Azerbaijan, they're also gonna help in crippling Armenia. They get a tiny bit over here in the south from Armenia, so they can meet up and connect with their exclave, as well as all of this land from Iran. And Armenia that got fully invaded ended up looking like a little crippled piece of trash. Poor little Armenia. Anyways, next we've got the Kurdish state that finally got its independence. They get all of this land from Iran, where the Kurds managed to come out victorious, and Iran actually can't do anything about it at all. Wow, this is revolutionary. Iran get all this land back for themselves because they get a new revolution, a new government, the same government they had before this current government came in like 1970 something. So yeah, here they are as kind of a puppet. I mean, they're not a puppet because they're not going to act like a puppet, but they're going to be like blue team member. And Russia just lost their strongest ally in the Middle East. Womp womp, Russia. So Kurdistan just doubled in size. And now this claim over here, you got the two countries of Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. So this land, let me show you. If we put them in separate colors, light blue being what Saudi Arabia invaded, here's what Kuwait invaded. Yeah, Saudi Arabia can't just look like this, right? They can't just wrap around Kuwait like that. So here's what they're gonna do for the aesthetic, so it looks good. The two countries are arranging their border so it looks better. They're gonna end up looking like this. All right, so yeah, so literally all this land over here and over here that they invaded is gonna get compensated over here and over here. Yeah, exactly, there you go. So here you got the upgraded Kuwait, and now let's set the flag of Kuwait on this. And here it is, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. This was a fun scenario. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.